This is One on One. Steve Adubato here. We're at the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, and we just finished a really compelling conversation called Breaking the Cycle of Teen Abuse and Bullying. We are honored to be joined by one of the panelists who contributed so much to that conversation. She is Lillian Rivera, Executive Director of the Hetrick-Martin Institute, New Jersey, and the name Hetrick-Martin?
Yeah, Hetrick-Martin, Damien, and Emery were partners. And one was a psychologist, the other a psychiatrist. They were activists in the community. They helped do all sorts of things like remove homosexuality from the DSM as a medical condition. And they heard about this young man.
The DSM is what mental health professionals use as a diagnosis
to diagnose
tool.
Folks with illnesses, right? So homosexuality was in there, and they helped get it out of there. And they heard about a young person who was in a shelter, and the young person was assaulted by other young people. And the response of the adults in the space was, well, had you not been so gay, this wouldn't have happened to you. And hearing that story just like galvanized lots of energy and strength with their interest in creating safe spaces for LGBTQ youth, and knowing that lots of LGBTQ young people are disowned by their families. They figured they wanted to do something. So they started advocacy they started the organization just like most organizations in their living room with their friends.
What's it today?
Today, 40 years, a huge organization, New York City, and New Jersey is our first, offshoot.
It's interesting. In the conversation we had, the forum, that was so, as I said, compelling and candid, focusing on teen bullying and abuse, I want to follow up on something that we talked about there. To what degree do you believe that those who identify or who are part of, they don't identify, they're part of the LGBTQ plus community, are they potential victims of abuse and bullying in ways that may be different than those who are not part of the community?
Yeah, I think those really contribute to gender, right? The irony is that we think it's about sexual orientation and who people are attracted to, but it's really about gender. And for a boy who is much more masculine and doesn't disclose that they're gay, they're less likely to be a target. But for a boy who's very feminine, he's very likely to be a target.
Of abuse and bullying?
Absolutely, because he's going beyond our expectations of gender, and gender influences our lives in ways that we don't even understand, right? And if a young boy is playing with dolls or likes the color pink or prefers to play with girls, or maybe their mannerisms look like what girls' mannerisms look like, kids find that different, something as a vulnerability, right? So they'll target in on that young person and they'll abuse them.
What responsibility do adults have to be aware of the propensity for this to happen, but also to be protective of those children?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word.
I think it's the right word. Our organization was actually the Institute for the Protection of Lesbian and Gay Youth before it became Hetrick-Martin. And I think all of the responsibility is on adults.
Define protect.
Protect means to ensure that young people can be who they are, move in the world the ways they need to move, express themselves, learn in ways that are appropriate for them, right? In a safe environment. An environment where they're not being judged, where they're not being called names, where they're not being ostracized, in ways that support all children to be just who they are. That's it. I think of a story where a friend of my child, who's now 10, and this was like when she was 3 or 4, one of her friends was a year older, and it was the first day of school. And he went to school, and he was wearing pink sneakers. And the next day, I asked his mom, how was his first day? And she said, absolutely horrible. And I was like, wait, he's like 4. How could he have a bad day on the first day of pre-K 4? And she said that the kids made fun of him because he was wearing pink sneakers.
They were bullying him.
Yeah.
They were verbally abusive?
Yeah, they were verbally abusive. You don't wear those sneakers. Those sneakers are for girls. Why would you do that? Why? Boys don't wear those. And those really small things are what impact children.
And again, I don't know the situation, and I don't know if you know this either. Did a teacher step in?
I don't know. I actually don't know, but that is the prime opportunity.
There's some adult that we don't even know.
That's right. When we can step in and say, no, clothes are for people, right? Toys are for children. Colors are for people, right? Dolls are for people.
But what about other kids? We talked about the whole question of young people, teens, even younger. You're talking about 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
Being upstanders, or
Yeah.
stepping up, identifying and saying no, or challenging the person who's being abusive or bullying. Realistic?
I think upstander behavior is definitely realistic. I think it's only realistic if we can role model that for children. If we could
As
be
adults.
the one as adults, absolutely. So if I'm in the supermarket with my 5-year-old and someone uses the phrase "that's so gay," it's up to me to role model and say to that person, you know what? Using the word gay as derogatory, as a put down, that's not okay.
Someone says, particularly in certain supermarkets, I can envision it right now, mind your own business. Worry about your own kids.
Absolutely, but I'm not going to let that fly because your kid is learning that using gay as a put down
You're
is
going to tell
okay.
me how to parent my kid?
I could.
You could imagine that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I
still have
taught my child.
responsibility.
I taught my child how to do
interesting.
that for themselves, and they're going to need to know. I mean, I have a wife. They
Right.
have 2 moms. They're going to hear this, and they're going to have to deal with these things in their lives. They didn't choose to have 2 moms, right? But they're going to have to deal with homophobia, and I need to be that role model for them.
Lillian, before I let you go, this term intersectionality, could you give us a synopsis of what it is?
Absolutely. Intersectionality is the idea that there are lots of identities that we hold that come together to create more sort of marginalization or more oppression
For
based
example?
on, for instance, I'm a woman, I'm a lesbian, I'm Latina, right? I come from a working class family. All of those things do not separate, right? I can't be a Latina now and a lesbian later, right? All of those things come together. So when I present myself, when I'm in a real life situation, all of those things are manifesting themselves. So opportunities could be limited because one or all of them.
And we need to understand intersectionality.
We need to understand intersectionality because it's going to create a greater depth in our understanding how systems of oppression work in our country and how some kids may have some opportunities to grow and thrive and others won't. And we all start at the starting line, right? Intersectionality teaches us that that starting line may be a little farther back for some people, depending on how many levels of, marginalization or that they're combating.
I want to thank you for being part of such an important conversation and working every day to help break the cycle of abuse and bullying, particularly among teens. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well done.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by New Jersey Sharing Network, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the Russell Berry Foundation, Rowan University, TD Bank, Fedway Associates, and by United Airlines. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.